comes to Tua, we just have to be honest about him. And what annoys me about what Drew says when he talks about Tua is that I hear the same story often. When they lose a big game, it's they didn't run enough. This time it's they didn't pass enough, but usually it's always been they didn't run enough. Now it's they didn't pass enough. If they passed more, they would have gotten beaten by more. They would have gotten blown out because Tua would have thrown maybe two more interceptions. That's what would have happened. That's the truth of it. And the reality is that when the Dolphins play well, when Tua has a great game, I don't never hear Drew. I don't ever hear you mention, man, Mike McDaniel, genius. He's so great. It's all Tua, 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 Tua. It's 99% Tua. Then when he plays bad, now you want to point fingers at everybody but him. And you know what? This is a question for the fans. This is a question for the audience. If Joe Burrow had this game, if Lamar Jackson had this game, if Patrick Mahomes had this game, if Josh Allen had this game, are you talking about Andy Reid, Zach Taylor, Todd Monken, or Joe Brady? You're not talking about them. You're talking about the quarterback. But because it's Tua, you just want to put blame on Mike McDaniel. And I ain't going to let you do it because Mike McDaniel has been trying to adjust to Tua. But Tua cannot make the adjustments that Mike McDaniel is asking of him.
I heard
That's
enough.
the truth,
A lot of what you're saying is incorrect. I say that for the idea of when Tua went out there through 400 yards, 6 touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens.
In week 2.
You can go back and watch. You can go back and watch the tape. I said, awesome job by the offensive line. Tyreek Hill, you're a dog. Jalen Waddle, you're him. Mike McDaniel, excellent play call. But, of course, I went back to Tua because he is the quarterback, and you got to go out there and execute. Against the Bills last week, I said it. Tua has to be better. I mean, again, you try to very you lie on my name.
Am I lying, Dehls? Am I lying? Dehls, am I lying?
Name.
Too often.
Drew gives Tua a lot of credit,
consistent.
But
I'm very consistent.
He give more credit to Tua when they win, but when they lose, it feel like he not giving Tua the most blame. Am I right or am I wrong, Dehls?
That's not true. Because here I am saying, thank you. Because here I am saying that Tua needed to be better. I've said that my guy Tua. I started this whole thing by saying
you need to say it. He was ass.
I understand.
What else there to say? He was garbage.
And,
of course, you got to say he has to be better. He was shit. He was dog shit.
I'm here saying this to you, but at the same time, I'm acknowledging other truths of the situation. If that's not what you want me to do, this is my job to tell the whole story.
What's
yes,
the biggest
Tua
truth
is
of the situation. What's
that
the
Tua
biggest
was
truth
not
of the situation?
That Tua kind of came down.
Do you think Tua has limitations? Do you think Tua has limitations? Do you think he gets? Yeah. Do you think he gets uplifted by a system at times?
He has limitations because he's not as mobile as the other upper echelon quarterbacks in the league.
He's not as good as Jared Goff, who's a pure pocket passer. Just saying.
You understand that his offensive line is a little bit more fucking sound than, unfortunately, Miami Dolphins, where Tua has to have the quickest pass time to throw in the National Football League, or he's getting pressured religiously. That's the only thing that I'll say to that. I think that today there was some hesitancy for sure. That's where I kind of want to knock Tua in that regard. The underthrow to Tyreek Hill just seemed a little bit lackadaisical on Tua's part. I was talking to people that I was watching the game with. Hey, you got to let that one go. Put some juice behind it. Kind of threw it a little bit too, like I said, lackadaisically for my liking. Maybe that would have been a little bit more in stride. But I don't know. I think Tua let the moment get a little bit too much for him. On top of the weather situations, on top of the offense not being as consistent where we had normally seen it, them not trusting in him as we've seen them trust him all season long. You went down 2 scores, then you were just like, hey, finally, let's start passing the ball. You said they would have got blown out. Hey, they ended up getting blown out regardless, whether they were going to throw the football or not. So, yeah, let's go out slinging it because this is our quarterback and we have no choice. So, to me, I just feel like there's a little bit inconsistency in your regard where I'm here, and anytime I have to give slack to Tua, I do it. But I like to tell the whole story where you may not want to hear that, but that's the truth.
What was the biggest issue tonight in your eyes?
Early on, of course, just not being able to move the ball. I think that it got to a point where you needed to move off the run. The run was very obvious what the Chiefs were planning for, and you kept going for it.
The pass wasn't working either.
Let's just be honest about what happened. Tua sucked. That was the biggest issue. You giving this political answer, but it's easy.
But true or false, were the Chiefs not getting pressure on Tua the entire game?
What did I tell you when we was talking about this game? I even told Dehls when we were watching the game.
And what did I say to you?
After Tua gets off the first lead, the pressure's
I'm going through all the thought processes. I'm with you. We're all sound here, but I'm going with Dolphins because I'm going to go down with the ship. I said it. I understand that this one was definitely in the Chiefs' favor. It was not an ideal matchup.
I'm not going to give you points for purposely picking the wrong answer.
I didn't say,
hey, I'm not picked the wrong answer. You purposely picked the Dolphins, knowing they was going to lose.
Agreed. And that's fine with me. I said it. I'll go down with the ship. You got to go ride. That's it. I'm here with the Dolphins. It is what it is. I'm here with Tua Tagovailoa. It is what it is. But again, I came in. You're saying that I told you before this game. I said, yeah, I sat there and I said the same exact thing. I understood what this game was going to be. I just would have liked to see my guy go out there and play a little bit better. He didn't. And that's the truth.
If I was one of the passengers on a Titanic, I'm not dying. I'm getting out alive. I don't care. You was on the Titanic and you sunk. That's your fault for not getting on a life raft. That's your fault.
I'm sorry.
You had it out.
That's just not what I'm going to do. That's not who I am.
This is the thing that I don't get, man. It's like, okay, if we want to talk about the X's and O's of the game, we could talk about them because we know the Chiefs on offense, they did their thing against Miami. In the red zone, the Dolphins were really great. They were. But the rushing attack for the Chiefs was working. Getting Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce on the move. They really leaned into their playmakers. And Mahomes, I mean, I've been saying it all year long. It's Mahomes. I'm going to trust him in the playoffs. They executed at a high level. We all acknowledge that. But with the offense, in the first quarter, in the first couple of drives, Tua had 4 pass attempts. 3 of them were short dink and dunk throws. And the 4th pass attempt, when they asked Tua to air it out down the field, he threw an interception. The player, the end breaker, was wide open. Tua sailed it over his head, maybe 3 yards, and it became an interception. The reason why Mike McDaniel wasn't comfortable passing the ball was because he understands Tua's limitations. That's what it is. The biggest
issue. That's a terrible coach, if that's the regard.
What do you mean that's a terrible coach?
I don't think that's a terrible coach.
You let one throw in the first quarter dictate your entire game plan.
No, I think going into this game, he knew what the game plan had to be. I don't think that throw changed anything.
To a point where you had to adjust, and he did not do that.
What about the point where Tua had to make better throws, and he was trash?
I agree.
Tua couldn't even throw the ball. Garbage time.
Like
Tua couldn't even do well in garbage time.
50% of his passes.
The game was over. Who really cares about garbage time?
The game was over, but he couldn't even inflate his stats in garbage time. He was getting locked up. In garbage time, he was stealing throws. What do you mean it doesn't matter? You still supposed to score in garbage time. You're supposed to try. You're supposed to try.
We don't give out participation trophies. The game was over when they went for it on 4th down. They fell short when it was 20, whatever the score ended up being. The game was done after that. The garbage time.
Me and Dehls are saying the same thing. The biggest issue with the Dolphins tonight was Tua offensively, bro. That was the biggest issue because even when they scheme plays up, he wasn't able to execute. The offensive line,
like
sure,
we
can. The offensive line, sure, we can call that an issue. I'm not saying it's not an issue. But you were the same guy that discredited Joe Burrow's run to the Super Bowl. You try to mock every game that he went through, saying that he didn't have not one great game. You said he out of his 5 playoff wins, he only maybe got 1 great game. You try to discredit his entire run. And now with Tua, you want to get brownie points. You want to put the blame on Mike McDaniel. If
you keep saying I'm giving the blame to Mike when I said
that Tua is an elite quarterback.
The only reason I don't want to listen to you speak is because you're not telling the truth.
You asked Drew.
Telling the truth.
You still think Tua is an elite quarterback. You said after this game, probably not. But then you said you still believe Tua is an elite quarterback.
Exactly.
If he was an elite quarterback, you're going to hold him to the same standard. You're not even holding Tua to an elite quarterback standard. No, you're not.
I am.
Everybody knows you're making excuses for him. Everybody knows you're making excuses for him.
But explain to me how I'm not when I'm saying that he needs to be better. He had some throws that I still think that I know that he wished that he had back. But I'm also here saying that, yes, Tua's to blame. But I'm also saying another part of the reason why the Dolphins lost is because of lack of adjustments. I'm not saying Mike McDaniel is the reason they lost.
The Dolphins lost because of the lack of adjustments. The Dolphins lost because is that not a direct correlation to taking
what's the
reason
the Dolphins lost?
Reason why they lost.
What can you give me the main reason why the Dolphins lost this game? Was it coaching? Was it quarterback play?
Offense,
was it
AKA the quarterback? Yes. But I also think
Drew, can you tell me straight up what the problem was? Not like beat around the bush.
My issue being is that a lot of the passes called were screen passes. The one intermediate throw outside of the bomb touchdown that, yes, I said was underthrown was the ball to Waddle, which was in the first quarter. You did not give him a chance to push the ball downfield. You ran the ball, screen pass. That has not been your game plan all season long.
That's never been what the Dolphins
were.
Do you think there's a reason?
Excuse me, Joel. The thing that I have problems with here is you could say, yes, then Mike McDaniel does not trust Tua. I was anticipating coming up on here and you hearing the both of you guys say that. If Riv were here, I was expecting the three of you guys to say that. But was he given a chance to push the ball downfield outside of screen passes tonight and that interception that he had in the first quarter?
He had the throw to Tyreek Hill and then the interception. Those were kind of the two plays. He had one ball to the right side to Waddle, I want to say, which was a nice ball at the end of the first half.
What do you mean that's it? What do you mean that's it?
They only had three passes deep down the field or pushing the ball beyond the first down marker.
His first interception, he tried to throw it down the field or at least past the first down marker.
Quarter. When do we see a head coach give up on a quarterback after a first quarter INT?
God. I'm tired of listening to what you're saying right now because you're just saying things that are just not true. Tua had chances to throw the ball down the field.
When? In the fourth quarter when they were down 2 scores and had no choice?
You know what's funny is that we just told Drew the 2 plays he was able to throw it down the field. One of them was an interception, a terrible throw by him, and the other one was an egregious underthrow.
It was in the second drive of the game, and it ended up being a touchdown. The egregious underthrow.
Why was it a touchdown? Why was it a touchdown?
Tyreek,
not because of Tua. Not because of Tua.
Tyreek is a dog.
Not because of Tua.
And listen, go look at the tweets when Tyreek scored the touchdown. Not a word about Tua. I said Tyreek went crazy. It's an acknowledgement that Tyreek was the reason they scored that touchdown.
So let me ask you, Drew. The Dolphins tonight were 1 for 12 on third down.
Correct.
All of those 11 missed third downs were screen passes that Tua threw. They weren't throws trying to get it down the field.
The unfortunate truth of that is at least 75% of those were screens.
And you're wrong. It wasn't that way. I just think you have a way of trying to manipulate what actually happened.
What are we
so
talking
you can
about?
Give Tua a pass.
Joel, we're going to watch the game back and you're going to see how many screen passes happened.
Yeah, we can watch the game the same way back when, remember, Dehls, when after the Titans game, Drew was defending Tua, and then I pulled up 2 plays where Tua could have made to get them in field goal range, and he didn't make them. This is a history with Tua. Tua don't make those plays
I blame Tua for the Tennessee loss.
Tua doesn't make
needed to be
plays
better.
when it matters.
That's
but before I showed you the film, you was protecting
like
Tua.
I hold Tua like he's perfect. That's
you
not the case.
You do.
No, that's not true. That's not true. When he lost to the Bills, I gave him shit. When he lost to the Titans, I gave him shit. That's the reason you're pissing me off right now. I don't treat him like he's Jesus Christ walking on fucking water.
Yes, you do.
I'd say when
yes, you do. Yes, you do. And everybody knows you're lying.
Joel. True or false, when he lost to Tennessee and he had a chance to go and win the game, I gave him shit for it because he didn't.
But that doesn't mean you don't hold him to this Jesus Christ level standard. He's your favorite player in the league. You think he's an elite quarterback. You think he was an MVP candidate.
That's why I think he's going to play well. But my point being is when he doesn't, I'm here saying he didn't play well. True or false?
But I'm asking you, like, what's the biggest issue? The pass game couldn't get going. So I'm like,
which is Tua?
Say what
which
it
is Tua? Which is what I'm saying.
Tua was the biggest problem.
Not really.
Can we just come to that agreement that Tua was the biggest issue in tonight's game?
Tua is the quarterback. Yes, Tua did not push the ball downfield enough for us to have a chance to win this game. I've said that multiple times.
If you're saying,
I just want to say, it's just like he didn't push it down the field. He didn't get an opportunity to do this. It's like, bro, it was his fucking fault. He didn't have a good game. He was bad today.
Joel, can I ask you, what did you want him to do with the play calling put forth with him?
Oh, I think there was opportunities to push the ball down the field. There was opportunities. Was every play a screen pass or a run? No,
not everyone. Not everyone, but it felt that way in the first half and early in the third quarter.
Let me ask you something, Drew. What does your dad think about Tua?
My dad doesn't like him anymore.
He's a smart man. He's a fucking smart man. He knows what the fuck he's seeing. A quarterback that's limited. That's not an elite quarterback or a franchise quarterback. He knows
he's a
what
pocket
the fuck
passer that does not have that good of an offensive line. And then on top of it, if you rush him, he makes some bad decisions.
Well, Joe Burrow made the Super Bowl with no offensive line at all. But
he's a lot more.
Yeah, but you didn't hold Burrow to that high regard when he made it, though. His
defense was healthy. His defense was great. Evan McPherson was awesome.
The Dolphins defense showed out tonight, didn't they, Dehls? Wouldn't you say they played well? They
played well for the amount of injuries, no doubt. I definitely give them a lot of credit.
I think they played well.
They played well regardless. They played well regardless.
It was hard to play offense in this frozen situation. Mahomes is Mahomes. He's going to go out there and do his thing, though. So credit to him and the Kansas City Chiefs.
And what Dehls is saying about the passing game is because if I'm saying the issue is the passing game, that doesn't just mean it's the quarterback, because the passing game can be, well, the receivers could have missed catches, the play caller could have called bad plays, or the quarterback could have been bad. So him saying that you just saying the biggest issue is the passing game, that is very vague when we all know that the biggest issue was their quarterback, bro. And I think that there are a lot of people that weren't fooled by his stats, and we can just call it how it is. His stats are great. These past 2 seasons, his stats have been amazing. And when John compared Tua to Ryan Tannehill, I think you got a little bit over the top about it because you thought it was disrespect. But what's the difference between this current version of Tua and 2019 and 2020 Ryan Tannehill? I mean, what is the real difference? They're both guys that are elevated by their system, but they're not per se elevating guys around them. When the going gets tough, he folds.
I'm looking back at this first half, and it's around that second quarter where you look at the drive where after they scored the touchdown, they had 6 plays. A run from Mostert, a run from Mostert, a run from Mostert, a run from Mostert. 4 plays in a row, goes for 12, 15, 21 yards on 4 runs. Solid gains for sure. It's 3rd and 1. They have the screen to Mostert. Don't run it again. They run the screen to Mostert. Do you think that was a bad play or a bad pass, a bad drop? I mean, if you guys remember what I'm talking about, either which way you shake it, 3rd and 1, screen pass. They go for it on 4th to Tyreek Hill. Pressure's on Tua Tagovailoa, has to escape. Pressure on his shoulder. He's getting his jersey ripped. Throws it to Tyreek Hill. Incomplete pass. If you want to say it's a bad throw,
it was on the inside of Hill. It was on the inside of Hill.
But again, it's still a tough one where he was already being double covered. Tyreek still had a body on him. He threw it on him. Maybe if you want to say he threw it on this side of his chest, okay. Yeah. But still, it's not like it. I'm not calling that a bad play. Maybe Tua probably should have just took off and got the first down on his own. But that's just another situation where you go ahead and you don't get the drive continued in that situation. But on 3rd and 4th down, it was a pass that was within 2 yards. But you don't run it there. You don't run it there. On 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, you don't run the ball. And then the next drive that they end up punting, a run with Devon Achane, Tua to Tyreek Hill pass that was a screen. Tyreek Hill false start, and then Tua is sacked. It's like this was constantly the entire game. This was every drive until we got into the 4th quarter where they finally decided, hey, we're down. We need to really let this thing rip. And then they did so and still ended up with no result. But it took them until that situation was the back against the wall for them to stop throwing screens and checkdowns.
Are you telling me that Tua also, because you were talking about how, there was a lot of screen passes in this game, which before I get in depth on why there was a lot of screens, I mean, how many screens did we see where Tua threw it in the dirt or Tua made a bad pass on a screen?
How many?
Pass?
I'm wondering how many.
It was about like 5. I mean, Tua had a lot of bad throws. Yes, he did. I mean, Tua had a lot of throws that hit the dirt.
The one that I didn't like was the one it was the left side of the field, and I think he just kind of shorted it. That was early on in the game. I think that might have been the same drive where he threw that interception. Yeah.
Okay, we all know the Dolphins' offensive line is not good, right? So you're playing a strategy which is shying away from screens, which screens can work and they also negate the pass rush. It helps your offensive line not have to just go into a straight drop back game. You're telling me a better formula to win was for Tua to drop back and scan the field behind a suspect offensive line. That's the better way to win.
My question is, if you see it's not working, you go to it, it's not working. At what point do we realize, let's do something new? This isn't it. Let's do something else. I'm this amazing offensive mind. I'm one of the smartest offensive minds in the league. I agree with you guys. Mike McDaniel is an amazing coach. At what point do we adjust? What point do we do that? If this isn't working, if the easiest thing in the game is not working for us, I agree with you, Joel. 10,000% you're right. If this isn't working for us, we have to try something else.
Because you have said the same thing for Sean McVay when he faced Bill Belichick in the 2018 Super Bowl when Jared Goff wasn't good in that game. Because you have said the same thing for Sean McVay.
Guess that was 2019. I'd have to go back and watch that game, but I know they only scored 3 points.
The truth is that average quarterbacks limit offenses. And Tua, through all his stats against actual good competition, when games actually matter, he's average. That's what it is. All these adjustments you're calling for on the film, McDaniel has made adjustments and Tua has not adjusted to his adjustments. Tua is still missing throws, and Tua is someone that's still very, people try to call him an elite processor. He's not an elite processor. He, to this point, has been very one-read quarterback. Why do you think he has the fastest time to throw? Because as soon as the ball is snapped, also because the first play, the first receiver that's always open is the one that McDaniel dials up in the play. He doesn't give Tua much to think about post-snap. He doesn't process much post-snap. So when we get into a game where he has to process more post-snap, McDaniel knows what Tua can and can't do, and we get these outcomes.
Dropping back, straight dropbacks, screens, rollouts, play action, and asking Tua to scan the field in those temperatures would have been worse than what they were doing. I think that becomes the issue, is that when things aren't working, that's typically when you've seen Patrick Mahomes be able to rush for 30 yards and Josh Allen running over people and making these throws. Tua he has some elite traits, right? Like, I think he has great accuracy. I think he has really good touch on the ball. But what we've been saying really for feels like 2 seasons now is when things break down in the play, and when Tua does have to hold on to the ball for, instead of 2.5 seconds, he has to hold on the ball for 3 or 4 seconds. He doesn't have the ability, as a lot of other top quarterbacks do, to be able to make something out of nothing. And in this game, that's kind of what you're asking him to do. You're asking him to drop back, to read the field with an offensive line that hasn't been playing well. And is he expected just in and out of reads, be able to get the ball out quick without getting sacked? That feels like something that wasn't even working when you were doing designed rollouts or when you were running screens. There was still pressure coming. So now you're going to be putting even more pressure on that 5 offensive linemen. I think Mike McDaniel is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. I don't think he went into this game saying, we're going to do this no matter what. I don't care what the score is at halftime. This is our game plan. I think he genuinely knows that if he's going to ask Tua to sit back and read the field against one of the top offenses in these conditions, the outcome's not going to be better than what the other option is.